Major funding for these broadcasts is made possible by grants from Capital One Bank and Chase Commercial Term Lending, the Witkoff Group, New York Community Bank, M&T Bank, Greenberg Traurig, Perfect Building Maintenance, Genova Burns. Additional funding is provided by grants from AKA Hotels, Corman Communities, Aerial Property Advisors, AVR Realty Company, Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, Bank Leumi USA, Briarwood Organization, CBRE, Citizens Bank, Colliers International NYC, CPEX Real Estate Services, Cushman & Wakefield, Customers Bank, DDG, Dime Savings Bank of Williamsburg, Fisher Brothers, First Nationwide Title Agency, Flushing Bank, Foley & Lardner, Friedman, Handler Real Estate Organization, HAP Investment Developers, Investors Bank, James D. Kuhn Real Estate Institute at Syracuse University, James Orphanides, Chairman USRealty.com, Kilroy Architectural Windows, New York's Window Company, Madison Realty Capital, Massey-Knackle Realty Services, Matone Group, Mercantile Commerce Bank, N.A., Meridian Capital Group, Newmark Grubb Knight Frank, Newbanks, MHP Real Estate Services, Optimum Window Manufacturing Corp., People's United Bank, Rosewood Realty Group, SJP Properties, Sterling National Bank, Sterling Risk, Stonehenge Partners, TD Bank, Terra CRG, the Continuum Company, the CUNY TV Foundation, the Moynihan Group, and these friends.
Kosher delicatessens. At one time, in 1931, there were 1,500 in New York City. Today, in New York City, kosher delicatessens, you'd be lucky to find 15. But today, I've assembled 3, probably the leading kosher delicatessens in the city of New York and probably in the nation, who are also from the movie Deli Man, to tell me what's happening and how kosher deli is surviving and growing in the 21st century. My guest is Jack Lee Wall, who is the proprietor at the 2nd Avenue Deli, also known as the 2nd Avenue Kosher Deli. Jay Parker, who is the proprietor at Ben's Best Kosher Deli. And last but not least, Ronnie Dragoon, who is the proprietor CEO of Ben's Restaurant Group. So, let's see, who's been in the business the longest? Your brother would probably make you the elder statesman in the business.
Ronnie's been in the business the longest.
Oh, okay.
72.
Oh, you got me, yeah. Yeah, you got me.
So how is the world of the kosher deli today? I mean, you're the martyr. You even opened up a new kosher deli in Scarsdale about a month ago, and the people are coming, right?
Yes, they are.
So how do you make that Michigan decision to open up a new restaurant?
Even though for every immigration generation that's lost, for all of those who are 2nd and 3rd generation, that closeness to the kosher deli is no longer there. The issue is we've become such a niche business because of the dwindling number of locations that have and serve kosher deli. We're surviving.
You're in Queens. Queens
Yes.
is an area with thousands and thousands of different ethnic.
The most diverse borough in the city and probably the country, yes. But my question is the reverse of what Ronnie says, is that, you know, you don't have to be Italian to eat in an Italian restaurant. You don't have to be Chinese to eat in a Chinese restaurant. Why do we suspect that you have to be Jewish to eat in a kosher deli? I mean, you go to a diner and you see on the menu, matzo ball soup, corned beef sandwich, pastrami sandwich, stuffed cabbage in the Greek diner I go to.
Are you telling me that you have a little old Jewish man who's cooking this food in the kosher deli? I mean, you have the chefs, okay?
Yes.
You have a sous chef, okay? they come from all different backgrounds.
You don't have to be Jewish to eat in a Jewish deli if you come to us.
Right.
In our store on 33rd Street, I would say 50, 60% of the people are probably not Jewish. On 75th Street, I would say a heftier percentage are Jewish.
Right.
People come to 2nd Avenue Deli because they want pastrami, they want corned beef, they want matzo ball soup, mushroom barley soup. That's why they come.
We heard in the green room before that while you're saying pastrami and corned beef and brisket are important, Ronnie brought up an interesting point that the younger generation is more interested in turkey.
Turkey and grilled chicken.
Not the young people who come to 2nd Avenue Deli. For whatever reason.
That's what they're telling. I don't believe that. I mean, take a girl out on her first date. She's eating salads and little sliced turkey. After you're married 2 years, it's not salad and turkey anymore. I think some of this stuff is just for show. You call it any great steakhouse, and you'll have to wait for a good reservation. I don't think, the palates have changed a little bit, and I think we gravitate more towards what Ronnie was saying, but I'm not sure it's a deciding factor.
Yeah, but what's interesting is the original 2nd Avenue Deli was on 10th Street and
10th Street, 2nd Avenue.
And you closed, in 2006?
January 1, 2006.
And it was due to the landlord and everything else, and then you reopened on 33rd Street. And then you opened up about 2 years ago on 74th Street?
75th and 1st.
Why'd you open up a second restaurant?
Why? I thought there was a demand for it there, and there was.
So I think you bring up an interesting thing. There was a demand for that the same way that there was a demand or a thought in Scarsdale.
Right.
Now, you have more. You have 7 locations, and then you have one down at, the place that the Jews go to retire, or to the next step to go to the Star of David over there, Monument place. Over there. You're in Boca Raton, okay? Who's your customers there? Is it the olders, or do you have some of the younger people?
It's the Metro New York people who knew the Benz brand from up here. They went down there. There were no good delis, as far as I could tell. And I saw my business dwindling in every January and February. Every year it was getting just a little bit worse. I said, they must be going somewhere. So either they're going to Arizona or they're going to South Florida. And so I chose to go to South Florida. I worked there last week, 3 weeks ago. The lines are out the door every dinner. And it's a 250-seat restaurant. I sell more goulash and chicken fricassee and kishka in that Benz than I sell in all the 6 stores up north.
And what's the demographics of the customer? Because I'm going to ask the demographics of the customer here.
It's my peers and older. There are a younger group of people. There is a younger group of people coming in because they can't afford the Northeast anymore, so they're going down to Boca and South Florida, where the housing costs them much less, and so they have much more disposable income. So I've been pleasantly surprised. In each succeeding year, I see more younger families down there. I mean, that doesn't bode well for all of us guys up north, but it does for the Benz in Boca Raton.
Who are the customers in the 2nd Avenue Deli?
Depends which store. On 33rd Street, for lunchtime, you'll have business people. People going to the doctors in NYU Hospital. People going shopping.
I heard there was a direct shuttle down 33rd Street to the Ronald Perlman emergency room over there in case they need it.
Yeah.
Well, what happens is, first they go to their cardiologist, then they get their lab work done, then they come and eat lunch. And they tell me, don't tell my doctor. I said, what do you mean tell your doctor? He's sitting in the booth next door.
You have
a different crowd for lunch. Then dinner, you'll get more residential people living in the neighborhood. Then late night, you get another different crowd.
But you're over there in what we would call Murray Hill. I mean, you have the Murray Hill neighborhood is a very young neighborhood.
It's a diverse crowd.
Okay, it's diverse, but a good portion of it's young.
Correct.
It's a very young crowd. Do you have the young customers coming in?
We don't have them during early hours. We have them during the later hours.
And you're open to 12 at night.
Till midnight.
Right.
We have a very big lunch crowd for most of the business folks. Then there's an after lunch crowd as well, which was some of the older folks.
The Nosh crowd.
The Nosh crowd. And then we have the dinner crowd, which is a lot of the locals and people that we can attract because of the branding that we've done and the advertising that we do. Interesting, a couple of months back, we had done a big thing in one of the local, I think it was a Chinese newspaper. And we had gotten this write-up, and I didn't know what it said. It was in Chinese, but I guess we did well. So I come in on a Sunday about 12 o'clock. I walk in, and the whole place.
So the rugula has been replaced by fortune cookies?
No, they like, but the thing was, the place was loaded, and you looked around and you said, my goodness, what is this? It's, pastrami, salty, smoky meat. It's part of a lot of other cultures as well. It's a question of how you position it and where you bring them into. And very, very happy, very, very satisfied. And if you want to see the review, if you can speak Mandarin, you can probably tell me what it says.
They also eat gefilte fish, by the way.
Yeah.
They like gefilte fish
They like
very
gefilte
much.
fish, yeah.
The truth of this is you're touching on the issue that we face. And I've always said this. When I was first in this business, 85 to 90% of my customers were Jewish. Today, I'd say it's 60-40, 60 Jewish, 40 non-Jewish. If we're going to survive and do well, I've always said this, we have to appeal to other ethnicities. Now, we won't get them in the first generation, but we'll get them definitely in the second generation. And I see that in the Benz and Bayside, where I have a large Asian contingent coming in on a consistent basis. That's the future of our business. The future of our business is to reach out to other cultures who've been here for quite a while and enjoy it. It's a treat for them, as maybe the Jews enjoyed Chinese food in the first and second generation.
Yes.
New York is a city that has the best of everything. Has the best Chinese restaurants, best Italian restaurants, best seafood restaurants, and has the best deli. And therefore, if you're not Jewish, if you're Italian, you will frequent a Jewish deli. The only difference was, years ago, people would eat in the deli 3, 4, 5, 6 days a week sometimes.
Right.
Today, they'll go there once a week, once every 2 weeks. So you have to make up for that, bringing other people into the deli.
So my question to you then is, why do they come all those times of the week? And it's a specious question because I have the answer. So
Okay, so tell us the answer.
Because,
oh, great guru.
No, because that's what it was. When you didn't have a lot of money and you wanted a really good meal and a hearty meal, and your mother would give you $1. This is what I'm told. And you would go to the kosher deli, you'd have the sandwich, you'd have the French fry, you'd have the soda, you'd have the dime waiter for the tip, and you still had 10 cents left out of the $1. I mean, it was always the place to go for great value.
Not just value.
But quality too.
It was also the place you went to, you felt like you were eating at home. I still remember this. This was in the 70s. We had a waitress by the name of Selma. And I'm in the store, and these two people come into the deli. It was a father and son, and they sit at the counter. And Selma, the waitress, does not give them a menu. And I'm wondering, why isn't she giving them a menu? And she goes to them and says, all right, we're going to start out with soup today. And you haven't had steak in a while, so we're going to have steak, but no potatoes. You're putting on weight. Only vegetables. And I spoke to her afterwards. They come down, they sit at the counter. As far as they were concerned, they were going home. They were sitting with their wife or their mother, who puts the food on the table. No one asks questions what the menu is, and that's what they ate.
And if you go see the deli man, you'll hear that story that he told, which was impressive. But I want to say one thing. It shows you the difference in age between Jay and myself. I heard the story that it was, you can go to a kosher deli with a quarter.
When I was a little boy, my brother already had the deli on 2nd Avenue and 10th Street. There was a deli on South, we lived in Williamsburg. There was a deli on South 4th Street and Hooper, on the corner, a kosher deli. And I would go in there sometimes, and I would sit down. He knew me because of my brother. I would get a tongue sandwich, a soda, and a little souffle cup of coleslaw. The only thing is, I don't remember what it cost me. But I remember going in there as a little boy.
Somewhat less than the $22 for a sandwich today, right?
Correct.
Okay, I know you advertise in the New York Times. You advertise in local publications in Queens over there. You don't do any advertising.
None.
Okay, so, but what about, and people do look at Twitter, and they do look at Facebook, and they look at Yelp, and they look at all the other things. How do you handle that? I mean, because you have you're not a solo store. Okay?
I have an infrastructure that takes care of this,
Right.
but I also have an outside firm, as Jay does, as Jay discussed, that handles some of this as well. But a lot of this, again, is done in-house. In fact, there was a time up until about 3 months ago, I answered every Facebook critique or compliment with my sense of humor.
We do the same thing. There's not one time that we get anything from TripAdvisor to Facebook to you name it that we're involved in. That we don't. If somebody gives us a nice review, we thank them up and down. If something is a little bit off, we'll get back to them and ask them what we can do better and invite them back again. We're drilling down into this customer base. The customers are very, very important, and you know. If we're going to bring this industry into the future, it's going to be the younger folks that are going to help us get there. So we're changing media to meet their needs.
How do it's like when I had the guy. He was a pastry chef who was now in the Mexican restaurants, and he has 2, and he's planning to open up a number. It's like that subject of the Chipotle fast casual over there.
Right.
How do you see the next restaurateur saying, you know what? There is a business in the kosher deli business. Now, true, it's a supervision problem. It's more expensive to be that way. How do you see the next generation coming into this business? And like you said, you have a son and daughter who are not joining this business. I don't know, but your daughter might join it, and your son's in it. So how do we get the next generation to continue? I mean, when we were young, there were, as I said, there were 1,500 in 1931, none of us were born at that time. But I still remember when we all grew up, there were numerous. You would go down different streets. The main streets had a kosher deli. For us to say that we can't even count 15 of kosher delis in the 5 boroughs is unbelievable.
You have to enjoy dealing with people. My kids enjoy talking to people, dealing with people. When they're in the store, they enjoy the interaction between customers. When you come into the deli, we sit down and schmooze with the different customers. They do the same. And that's an important part of the business. You have to enjoy people.
But the truth, Jack, is you're going to get very few people who want to work the number of hours and days that we work. It's very rare today. And most stores are on multiple units.
And all of you are still on your first wives.
That's right.
That's right. However, you're going to find, if you're a lawyer, and you're working in a large firm, you're working more hours than a deli man. You're going to be working much harder, and I think the pressures can be worse.
Really?
That's right. My son was a lawyer. I still remember, I got up, for whatever reason, it was 4:30 in the morning, and I knew my son was working on a big deal in the law firm, so I called him up. He was still in the law firm. And I said, what are you doing? He says, we'll be finished in about an hour and a half. I said, great. I said, are you guys hungry? He said, yes. So I brought over to his office bagels with the non-dairy cream cheese and lox. And I brought over the chocolate babka. And I brought over orange juice. And coffee, he told me they brew a pot all night. So they have plenty of coffee. And I brought it over for him and all the people working on the deal. Still remember that.
But that also relates to my other subject. Years ago, the amount of catering that you may have done in the kosher deli business, it was more of selling food to the customer. Today, you said to me, 40% of your business is catering.
A major portion. It's by the way, still the same sandwiches.
I'm not talking.
platters.
I'm not talking about the product. I'm talking about the volume of your business is generated by the catering business. Yours too.
Yeah, we did a lot of with Abe. The Jewish Community Center of Greater Washington, Rockville, Maryland. That was his job. We partnered that job until and then we took it over. We had it for 15 years. We served 600 people once a year. And then Congressman Ackerman, for 30 years, we did his fundraisers in Washington.
But there are offices who are ordering. Okay, I know my own office. When they. They order in, from Second Avenue Kosher Deli. They don't bring the babka; they just get the sandwiches. They don't want us to get a little fat.
So do me a favor, I'll send you babka when you order.
It's an integral part of the business.
I feel it's a component.
It is.
It's a component, And depending on the business that you have, I like to think that I do a much bigger restaurant business because of the kinds of stores that I build. I put a lot of money in it.
Right, but you have larger stores.
Yes.
You just said this brand new store, you have 200 seats. Okay?
Most of the Ben stores.
Right, and your seats 45?
65 to 70 in each store.
And yours?
About 70, yeah.
So that's the difference. I have a business that's predicated on, it was based on having a bigger dining room and a bigger counter business. Although you don't have to be big to do a counter business. But if the need arose, I certainly would go after the catering business more than I do so now. I believe that my catering business is around 15, no more than 20%.
We've been chasing the catering business and putting a lot of money in it for a lot of years because that's a very important component. It's especially with a small store like ours, that the order that you take, I don't care how big it is. So if you don't come in at 5 in the morning, it's 4 in the morning, it's 3 in the morning, it's 2 in the morning, it's 1 in the morning. Whatever you need man hours wise to get the job done before you open at 9 o'clock, that can be done, and that's put on the side.
Food has become, very shishi. With the Food Network, Scott Conant, who was on my show, tells me he goes into the airport and people stop him. They see him over here, Michael Simon, you're on this, it's all these things. Okay, how do you get that next chef or sous chef to want to be working at the 2nd Avenue or Ben's?
Look for them.
Pay him enough.
No, by the way.
No.
By the way, Ronnie,
I think Ronnie
you
is
hit it on the
100%.
button.
That's it.
First of all, you have to look for a quality chef. If someone is a good chef, he can cook Eastern European food. Doesn't make a difference. He just may have to learn and tweak the recipes, but he can learn how to cook. Those type of things.
You're 100% right.
Yeah.
It's just a question of how much are you going to pay? How much will they accept? Will they accept the hours that might be required? Although I suspect that most chefs work a whole lot of hours in our industry.
That's right. Yeah. The chefs in your industry and a chef working in a restaurant is putting in enormous amount of hours.
We pretty much close. Jay, I know, closes at 9. I close at 9.
We close at midnight.
You close at midnight. He likes to be a night owl. It's a one-shift store. Mm-hmm. So that provides people with a life. So, for example, when I'm hiring a manager, I'm hiring a dining room supervisor, you can't find a restaurant that I know of that closes at 9:30 on a Friday night or a Saturday night. It just doesn't happen. So it does provide them with a life. So that's a trade-off.
Well, our managers have a life because we have actually several managers. We have a manager, like, for example, Steve comes in at 6 in the morning. He goes home at 3. Another manager
comes. 2 shifts.
We have several shifts. I actually have 3 shifts. Where lunchtime we have one manager who comes in, is there for lunch and for the dinner.
So there in New York today, there are emerging neighborhoods. There are city parts. I mean, Williamsburg is emerging. To a different level. Parts of Queens are emerging. If somebody said to you, and I mean, you made the decision recently to go to Scarsdale, where would be a good location for a new kosher deli?
Probably in the Washington, D.C. or Boston, Mass. areas.
I like Manhattan.
I like Manhattan.
I like Manhattan. Really.
Boston has had kosher delis.
You and I have to sit down.
They didn't seem to make it. One of them, when we were doing the premiere of Deli Man, was across the street from what was a long-time kosher deli from the theater that it premiered in, and they were telling us stories about how it closed down because there was just nobody to take it over, nobody to run it, and it quietly went away.
See, I think with what's happening today with the resurgence of downtown Brooklyn, the Fulton Street area, with all the apartments, with all the retail going up, Century 21's opening up there, second Target's opening up over there, and the offices and going on, that could be a potential location for a kosher deli.
Well,
I'm not going to be the person.
Here's the rub. Here's the rub with the kosher deli business, and our food cost is much higher because of the kosher product, which we position as a much better quality product. So it's not like opening another kind of restaurant where the food cost can be in the mid to high 20s, but we're, kosher, you're stuck over here. It's a real big number.
Our labor costs are also higher.
And our labor costs,
And
because you have 2 kitchens, in effect.
Right.
And also, and there's another thing that's the rent. Rents have gone up lately. In the last 10 years or so.
But that's a problem in the entire restaurant.
No, but you see, the problem is in the delis, our prices are more moderate than some of the other
a
restaurants.
violin over here.
It's the truth.
The margins are simply not as good, but you brought up a good point. Wherever you can find foot traffic, heavy-duty foot traffic, it can work.
You know, I was the other day, not too far, I happened to be inspecting a building right down on 38th Street near your block, and I got there about 9 o'clock, and I'm walking on 7th Avenue, and I'm seeing every one of these coffee shops packed, or anybody selling coffee. The only place who wasn't busy was Potbelly, who is a Chicago-based thing, and it served breakfast, and there were 2 people in there at 9 o'clock in the morning. It was just like, what happened? And they were right on the corner of 37th Street and 7th Avenue, and 2 people in the entire place.
Well, maybe it's possible that they're thought of as a luncheon place as opposed
Correct,
to a breakfast.
but you know,
How many more people do I have at 9 o'clock in the morning? Sometimes we can have 10 people there. Sometimes we'll have 2 people. Sometimes we'll have 0 people that early in the morning. It's hit or miss.
but you do breakfast, which is different.
We don't. Yeah.
We don't do breakfast.
We do, but people come in for salami and eggs, Western omelet, our lox, baked salmon. Getting hungry.
Even though it may be, you know, the dinosaur in many cases, the kosher deli is continuing to survive, as I see the 3 people over here who are saying that it's going to survive and it's going to continue.
Absolutely.
And, you know, maybe, you know, there'll be other young relatives or new people moving into the...
Michael,
What we have to do is tweak the
one
menu.
important thing, and I want to. The role of the kosher deli business has always been part of the Jewish fabric, the cultural and religious fabric. Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Passover, Shiva, Bar Mitzvahs, Bat Mitzvahs. You're not going to call and get a ham, you know, for those events. You're going to go to a kosher deli to do that. I'm in Regal Park, and I know that I'm dependent on to be there for these kinds of...
For the community, right.
Nobody else has this kind of commitment. No other kind of restaurant has this commitment.
Jack, Jay, and Ronnie, and I'll see you next week. And you can tweet, Facebook, LinkedIn, or whatever you want for the Stoller Report. See you next week.